welcome to Big Energy. I'm your host, Kassi Underwood, here to give you a dose of that good energy and talk with people who do it best. Each week, I bring you the knowledge we need to be the forces of nature we came here to be. Hi, friends. Welcome back to another week of Big Energy. This week, we are going to talk about my summer reading list for you. I'm about to go on my summer vacation, first to Florida with my honey bunny, then I'm going to Paris. I wanted to share with you 3 of my favorite books to read. Weird, but definitely, out there. The first one is called I'm Not Really Here by Tim Allen. Yes, that Tim Allen, Tim the Toolman Taylor. Woo-woo! If anybody watched Home Improvement. This is that Tim Allen, and I found this book, which was published in 1996, in a Goodwill when I was in high school. I think the year was maybe like 2001. I distinctly remember pulling this off of the shelf in Goodwill and being like, what is this? First of all, I was already a fan of Home Improvement because Jonathan Taylor Thomas was on it. But also, I've always loved comedy and I've always loved metaphysics. And this book combines comedy and metaphysics all in one. In this book, Tim Allen mixes the mundane elements of married life, of having kids, of, memories, longings for the past, all this stuff that we all go through with higher thinking. So I thought I would read to you. I'm going to be reading to you a passage that I enjoy from each book, okay? This is the passage that I chose from I'm Not Really Here. Page 19, for those of you who already have I'm Not Really Here, you can follow along, which literally, if you have this book, by the way, please DM me on Instagram or email office@kassiunderwood.com because I have never met somebody who has actually read this book, and I fucking love this book. So I would love to meet you so that we can talk about I'm Not Really Here. This is from page 19. I'm wondering how real or unreal the world of dreams is compared to our waking world. The Hindus and Buddhists say that our everyday world is an illusion called Maya, and what I've been reading about quantum physics seems to support that. I mean, right now, as I sit here in the kitchen, waiting for Katie and Laura, my butt and the chair it's resting on both seem pretty solid, right? It's a solid butt-chair relationship. The physicists tell us that matter is almost totally empty space. So to them, my butt and the chair look like the view of the heavens from the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. In addition, because on the micro level, there are supposedly no definite hard line borders between anything anyway, from that perspective, my butt also kind of blends with the chair, like cheese on a cheeseburger. This is almost enough to put me off of eating fast food ever again. Sheesh. I don't like it when my kid has nightmares, and now I'm going to have some. I like that he's saying sheesh. That is so 90s. Anyway, that is the passage from I'm Not Really Here. I love this book. Please read it if you love comedy and metaphysics, and if you're willing to set aside, political views, because I'm pretty sure that Tim Allen is a conservative. And if you're a conservative listening to my podcast, welcome. I welcome you here. I am not one, but I welcome you, and we probably have some things in common. The next book I want to recommend to you is The Sermon on the Mount, The Key to Success in Life by Emmett Fox. I am a huge Emmett Fox fan. Emmett Fox is a spiritual writer. He was a scientist, a philosopher, a teacher. He talked a lot about tapping into infinite power. I read a daily reader by Emmett Fox, which is basically every day there's a passage that can guide you through life. The Sermon on the Mount is the first book by Emmett Fox that I ever read, and it was really life-changing. So I'm going to read to you the passage that I often think about whenever I think of this book. So in the book is, again, the Sermon on the Mount. So he's talking about Jesus's teachings, and he's breaking them down for the metaphysics so that you learn, like, what's the core teaching? How can you actually apply this in a way that shifts reality? I'm going to read to you one of the passages that always stands out to me. This is about the concept of turning the other cheek, which I'm sure that you've heard before, no matter what religion you were raised in. We've all heard, like, turn the other cheek when someone is an asshole. So this actually breaks down the metaphysics of turning the other cheek. This is from Emmett Fox's The Sermon on the Mount. As for turning the other cheek, literally, for a blow, such as proceeding would be in the last degree. Oh, by the way, and the writing is, like, really fucking weird because it's, well, let's see, when was this published? You guys probably want to know. Maybe I'm the only weirdo who cares when things were published, but I want to tell you. Okay, turning to the right page. Getting my glasses out. I'm just kidding. I don't have glasses for that kind of thing. 1934. Okay, so this is from 1934. So that's why the writing sounds like this. And I'm going to read a little bit. So just, like, relax and continue on your walk, or however you like to listen to this. Here we go. Jesus, as we have seen, is the master metaphysician, concerning himself only with states of consciousness, with the thoughts and beliefs that men accept, for these are the things that matter, the things that are causative. He gives no instructions for details of external conduct, and so the references here to suing at law, to coat and cloak, to lending and borrowing, to turning the other cheek are illustrative and symbolic of mental states and are not to be taken in the narrow literal sense. This statement is not in any way an endeavor to evade or gloss over a difficult text. We cannot too often remind ourselves that if the thought is right, the deed cannot be wrong, and that a mere deed undertaken from an external motive is just as likely to be wrong as right in any particular instance, for there are simply no complete general rules for right conduct. No teacher could ever say that a given act must necessarily be right at any time, because the play of circumstances in human life is too hopelessly complicated for any such prediction. Anyone with the slightest experience of the world knows, for example, that to lend money indiscriminately to anyone who may ask for it is certainly not the part of wisdom, certainly not the part of elementary justice either to oneself or to those who may be dependent upon one, and that it would, in most cases, inflict actual injury instead of benefit upon the would-be borrower. As for turning the other cheek, literally for a blow, such a proceeding would be in the last degree unlikely to do anything but harm to both parties. And we should note particularly that Jesus, when he was struck in the room of Pilate, did not do this himself. On the contrary, he met his enemies with grave dignity. This instruction about turning the other cheek refers to the changing of one's thought when faced by error, changing from the error to the truth. And as a rule, it acts like magic. If, when someone is behaving badly, instead of thinking of the trouble, you will immediately switch your attention off from the human to the divine and concentrate upon God or upon the real spiritual self of the person in question, you will find, if you really do this, that his conduct will immediately change. This is the secret of handling difficult people, and Jesus understood it thoroughly. If people are troublesome, you have only to change your thought about them, and then they will change too, because your own concept is what you see. This is the true revenge. Dun, dun, dun. It has been tried thousands and thousands, perhaps millions of times, and it never fails when properly carried out. It is often quite amusing to see it acting like clockwork. If somebody comes into a room at home or into the office or shop or anywhere else looking as if he meant to make trouble, just try switching your attention straight off to the divine instead of sparring up aggressively to meet the difficulty or shrinking away to avoid it, according to your temperament. You will be amused and gratified to see the anger fade away from the subject's face, which will mean that it has faded from his heart too, and quite a different expression takes its place. You may find it helpful in the beginning to glance away from him while giving yourself this quote-unquote treatment. But with a little practice, you will be able, so to speak, to look through him to the truth of being. And then side note, guys, I love this example. It just comes to mind so often. And here I continue reading. A lady was annoyed by overhearing two men engaged on some repairs outside her window, who, unaware of her proximity, were indulging in very bad language. For a moment, a tide of anger and contempt surged up in her mind concerning them. But remembering this text, she instantly concentrated her attention upon the divine presence, which she knew to be within each of them, as it is within all men. She saluted the indwelling Christ in them, to use our modern expression, and instantaneously the offensive language ceased. She said it was as though it had been chopped off with a knife. She must have got a good realization, and in that case, it is certain that both men received a substantial spiritual uplift and may have even been permanently healed of the use of unclean language. Okay, so I just think it's fascinating that to turn the other cheek simply means when someone has bad behavior in front of you, you look through the behavior to their spiritual self. You see that light in them. You see the divinity in them. You see their best self coming forth. You might even see their vulnerability shining through. I love, love, love that. I think about it all the time. You look through to see the truth in them, which is the love in them, the joy, the peace, the whatever. Now, obviously, I don't give a shit about unclean language, but it disturbed that woman, and that's what she desired to shift. And so that is what she was able to shift. It doesn't matter what your desire is. Obviously, she cared about the language. Those of you listening obviously don't care about quote-unquote unclean language, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast, but you can shift the behavior of the person in front of you. Another way of saying this is that other people do not have free will around you. Everyone is behaving according to the space that you're creating and what you're available for. So with this, I just love it. And there's so much more where that came from. Emmett Fox really breaks down everything that is metaphysical about the Sermon on the Mount and the teachings of Jesus. So please check it out if that speaks to you. The third and final book that I will recommend for your summer reading is called Pussy, A Reclamation by Regina Thomas Howard. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, then you have heard Regina Thomas Howard because I had her on this podcast. It was a fucking pleasure and a joy, and I did end up taking her Pussy masterclass. It continues to live and give in me. So I wanted to recommend this book because when I first read it, I think it was 2017, I had a sense of some of these things. I've done a lot of reading through the years about the feminine divine and the role of women and the power of a woman. And, we've all seen the Venus of Willendorf statue that recognizes the goddess. And yet there was something about reading this book. It was like a piece of my internal puzzle had been missing all my life, and this book gave it back to me. I mean, there's so much here, but I'm just going to read to you a little bit from Pussy, A Reclamation, to whet your appetite, so to speak. Okay, here we go. This is from page 28 from the paperback, and for anyone who's following along. Our bodies were built for pleasure. How do I know this? Because function follows form. Why else would we have an organ that packs 8,000 nerve endings dedicated to pleasure with no other discernible function? I'm talking about the crown jewel of the pussy, our teacher, our leader, our girl guide, the one who brings us home and expands us to our full range, the clitoris. When engaged, this little bundle of flesh awakens our dead places, ameliorates our self-doubt, connects us to our divinity, and replaces our stress with simple joy. Men have no such organ. They have about 4,000 nerve endings on what is essentially a multi-tool. Just as the purpose of your eyes is to see and the purpose of your ears is to hear, the purpose of your clitoris is to teach you that rapture is your birthright. You don't have to rely on a sunset, a dance break, or a man. Your body is capable of experiencing ecstasy at any time you wish. 8,000 nerve endings teach a woman freedom, self-reliance, and an experience of her purpose in life. 8,000 nerve endings teach her that her joy is serious business, and that for the sake of fulfilling the gift of being a woman, she must not overlook her pleasure. Rather, she must be guided and informed by it as she makes her way in the world. And why not? I'm going to read you a little bit more because you want it, baby. You know you do. Okay. When she ignores her pleasure, a woman can mistake her purpose and believe that her function is to enslave herself to her job or live only to serve her husband, her kids, her family. This misapprehension can turn into a life where she is utterly starved for pleasure. She can waste her life in a perpetual state of anger and resentment towards said job, husband, kids, and family, or anywhere else she's devoted herself in hopes of fulfillment. The omission of pussy has created a legacy, generations of women who live as victims, always blaming others for our unhappiness and not knowing how to generate joy, pleasure, and satisfaction of our own. All right, my loves, I could not be more sure that speaks to many of the listeners on this podcast. It certainly spoke to me to read Pussy, A Reclamation for the first time. And once again, that's by Regina Thomas Hauer, founder of Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts. This book really is a revolution. I have given it to my clients for years, and when they read it, they're changed afterward. And to me, that is like what more obvious sign of a great book than you're changed after you read it. That is a sure damn thing. When I give my maverick women, my clients, Pussy, A Reclamation, I know 100% for a stone cold fact they will be a different person afterward. There's going to be a whole new level of confidence, possibility, and all that jazz. So please do yourself a favor, and if this speaks to you, read it this summer and enjoy. And if you want to extend your summer, The Maverick Woman, my 6-month program for self-expression and abundance, and 6 months of mentorship with me, is going to the south of France for our next retreat. If you want to join us in the south of France, the doors close September 1st. So this program is 6 months, and we go on a retreat every 6 months. There are people who have been in the Maverick Woman for years at this point. And so it's just part of our routine. We meet for our twice monthly group coaching calls. We connect on WhatsApp in between. We have bonus calls and other bonuses. And then we also go on a retreat every 6 months. So if you want to join us for the one in the south of France, go ahead and get in by September 1st. You can find more information at kassiunderwood.com/The Maverick Woman and check out the link below as well. You're welcome to book a call with me where we can chat about it and see what's possible for you. And if your goals and dreams and desires align, you're also welcome to just go ahead and join through the website. It's kassiunderwood.com/The Maverick Woman. I hope you all have a beautiful week, and I will see you next time. Mwah. Happy reading. That was another episode of Big Energy with me, your host, Kassi Underwood. Were you into it? Go ahead and click the subscribe button and leave a review. You can also find me online at kassiunderwood.com. See you next time.